Recording in progress.
This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome everybody to I think it's the 12th meeting of the First Selectman's Bicycle Task Force. This meeting is specifically about the 23-24 budget. While we're waiting for a couple of people, a quick report from our Pied Pipers, Stephanie Martin and Bob D'Angelo, regarding, and of course Xavier there too, regarding the bicycle activity at Riverside School. If you want to give us just a quick one on that, both the bike bus and the bike clinic.
Bob, why don't I do the bike bus and then you can talk about the clinic?
Great.
And
yeah.
Fred is joining.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So
All right.
bike bus, with the exception of last Tuesday, which was election day, the kids were off school, continues to be a go. We get new riders every week saying, hi, we've heard about the bike bus. We want to join. As you know, it got colder this week. So we thought we had to have an incentive for the kids to join. I didn't know who was going to come. And we gave out hot chocolate when we got to the school. It was very popular. And we still had a dozen kids, even in this cold weather. And I've been hearing there's at least one other location that wants to start a bike bus from over on Lake Ave. They want to do them from that direction too. So I think it's not just ours that's gaining momentum, but hopefully we can come at Riverside School from lots of different angles. But it's real. I encourage any of you, if you have a Tuesday morning, to come ride with Xavier and Bob and I in the morning. It's just something about being in a big pack of kids on bicycles, biking to school. It's just, it puts a smile on my face. Even when it's cold and I'm like, oh, I've got a bike, and then I get out there and it's really great. And I hope you all saw the article in the Greenwich Free Press that Leslie did on it. But do you want to say
great
something?
work to you. Great work, all of you. That's wonderful. We'll have to get back to that shortly. And Bob, maybe we'll hold off on the report of the bike clinic for the moment because we want to give Fred a couple of minutes.
Oh, sure.
Fred, I think you said you have only about 15 or 20 minutes. Is that correct?
About 12 minutes. Sorry.
12 minutes. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Fred, you and I spoke a couple of days ago, and I want to give you the opportunity the couple of things that we actually hit on, I guess, was your feeling about having trails, bicycle or multi-use type trails alongside hiking trails in parks. Could be a strong thing. And also you expressed support for the project that's on the agenda there. I think you mentioned on the agenda, the multi-use stretch from Valleywood Road to the Indian Field Road intersection, improving that sidewalk, widening that sidewalk to make that a multi-use segment for people coming out of Costco. Those were the two things that I jotted down that you were strongly in support of, I think you said. But I won't put words in your mouth if you want to just say a couple of things before you have to roll.
Yeah, no, thank you, Ben. Yeah, that and also the really low-hanging fruit, which is marking the roads on the parks with the Sharrows and Todd's Point. I think that's something that should be done. Excuse me, for the spring. I mean, that's not a big ask. So I don't know if Jim's on this or not, but I will try to circle back with him tomorrow. I sent him a note yesterday and I didn't hear back, so I think he may be out of the office right now. So definitely wanted those three things are, I think, very doable. Again, I love the idea of putting a bike paths right next to the walking paths. So again, all of us who are hikers shouldn't be hogging up everything. And I think wherever and whenever we can get bikers enjoying our many acres of open space. As you know, we just got 80 more and we're working on some more as we speak. So I think, if you can identify some areas, we will I will certainly give, advocate and lobby 200% for that. So, oh, Michael's on, so that's good. So Michael, if you want to jump in on anything I say, but these are things that are priorities, and I don't think they're bank busters. But there's
Sorry,
something.
I think you cut out for a second there. I heard my name and then I didn't hear what came right after it.
No, I just wanted to get your thoughts on what I was saying, because as Vin asked about the project over there near Indian Field Road, about widening that to get a bike path there. It's not a huge stretch. Also, we've talked about this enough, but getting the sharrows on the road in the parks and over in Greenwich Point. I think that's something we really want to see done as soon as possible. That's low hanging fruit. And then lastly is getting this task force is going to identify some parks where we can actually put a path for bikes right next to paths where we have for hikers. It won't be every park, and certainly there's some places probably it's a little harder, but we think there's, just being a hiker, I know there's lots of areas where we could probably do that. And we're just waiting. So as soon as they could identify some parks and some areas, I think I'd like to get to work on that. So here we are, we're almost in December. I'd like to talk, say next June, we've gotten a bunch of these things done, or they're well on their way to being done, rather than still being in the talking stage. So I know Jim's aware of this. Is he out of the office? Because I sent him a note.
Yeah, he's out. He's I think he had his procedure on his knee, so I think he told me he's going some doctor's appointment so he can get back on a bike, is what he told me. So
Poor guy, I'm bothering him. All right.
What kind of bike is that?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
bother
okay.
him.
Have to do a
We
ride.
need to get them out on the road.
Yeah,
No,
and
that's
again,
great.
I think if we cut through these woods, I know Joanne's on this right now. We're not talking about knocking trees down or anything like that. There's a lot of sucker growth and things like that that's not going to affect anything. But it's to allow people to enjoy those trees and the forests that we have there, and allow them to get some exercise in.
Love your perspective, Fred. That's great. We might want to mention too that Bob and I had a meeting with Joe Siciliano last week, and he, in terms of the parks, he's on board with this as well, being able to do trails and stuff. In fact, he was excited about that. So we're looking forward to developing something, particularly through Bruce Park, through the center section of the East Coast Greenway. So that's a real positive thing.
That is, Vin. They normally don't get excited about a lot of my ideas, so that's good.
Well, Fred,
the BET.
it's your vision, and this is your committee as well. So we're trying to make recommendations as cyclists, as to what we think is needed for safety and for access. So we support your vision in the parks, and particularly through that section of the East Coast Greenway, as well as the Roger Sherman Baldwin situation. We'd like to see bicycle access to all town properties, safe bicycle access. And when we talk about bicycles, like we keep saying bicycle, but really we're talking about micromobility. And I see Alan has his hand up. Believe me, Alan, we're definitely supportive of all pedestrian and access for all users. So
No doubt.
That's what we're all.
No doubt. I was just going to say, we lobbied the Parks Department through my committee the last couple of years about an ADA study inside the parks, which was funded in the last budget. That should be able to deliver a lot of information to the Parks Department in the bigger parks to see where and how you might be able to situate bike paths and footpaths and all other kinds of transportation paths that need to be in the park, because the parks are public property and the parks are for everybody.
Yes, thank you for that. That's actually what Joe talked about last week in our meeting. He pointed right to that study and said, I don't see why we can't take this study and get the info that you're talking about and be able to figure out where we can make those multi-use path sections. And he also expressed strong interest in working with DPW to, in the interface between the, roads, streets, roads, sidewalks, and into the park areas. So hopefully we have some of that synergy going there. So anyway, so the purpose of this meeting really, Fred, obviously we we wanted to get his thoughts and his support for this, and we have that. We want to see how we can, maybe we'll make some sort of motions here to, before the meeting is over, to recommend certain projects that are on that list that was provided with the agenda. Obviously, not all those things can be done this year or maybe in my lifetime, but we'll see. The low hanging fruit that Fred talks about. Let's see if we can pick some of those things out, highlight them, and recommend that Fred, can put them in his budget. We obviously need DPW. We need Parks and Rec. To the experts to say yes, we can do this, or no, we can't. We can argue about that later, but let's get the recommendations in there and see what happens. Bob, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Could I just say something while Fred's here? Hey, Fred. I want to thank you, because you were the guy, a year and a half ago, you reached out to Stanford's Mayor, Caroline Simmons, basically, and that forged a relationship that we've been working pretty hard. I mean, Ben Ernst is on this, it's a group, and I think we stand an incredible opportunity. The Westcott people, they like the connectivity that we're approaching this multi-municipality, and there's going to be funding. They would like to basically fund us and Stanford and maybe another town for, feasibility work leading towards enhancement to the Greenway, which could be possibly a good candidate would be, a multi-purpose path in Bruce Park for all users, basically, that makes that, the integral leg of a good segment through town there. So Parks and Rec, Joe likes that. He's got some funding that we could look good from Westcog standpoint, that the town would be willing to put some funding, and then it would strengthen Joe's case. So that I see that as very, very promising. So Vinny and I, the task force, we're going to press to really look hard at making an existing path in Bruce Park a true multi-purpose path that can accept everybody, including, an adaptive bicycle that has a much wider wheelbase that needs a wider surface. So that's a good scenario for us. It really is. And thank you for your press to Caroline Simmons. That's how we got to this today, basically.
No, Bobby,
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you so much. And before I leave, I'm gonna have to go somewhere with Selectwoman Rabin, and she's our liaison to Westcog. I will, if you want to send me that, Bob, any information, I'll get it to Lauren, and I'll have Lauren come on the next meeting here and get to work on that, because that's exciting. And
Stanford and Greenwich are going to get to pick a respective project that targeted for that funding. So we as a group need to agree on what we think that project can be. And then, like I said, I think the stars start aligning with a little bit of help. I think we can secure that funding. I really do.
Perfect. I will let her know, and just to get her on track with everybody here. So that's great news. And Michael will let's circle back tomorrow or early next week, and we'll start bothering Jim when he hobbling in town hall. But
yeah,
we really want to make sure that 6 months from now, we've got those sharrows down, and we're working really hard and made really great progress on the paths and the parks through the with the hiking trails, because everybody seems to be in agreement. So I think time is now.
Yeah, I think the sharrows are something we've definitely wanted. We've been talking about doing, and I think if we've been talking about between like Bruce Park and Byram, and I know that near the Civic Center's come up. So if there are a list of locations that the group maybe we can come up with that thinks are good for Sharrows, we can look into them and see if the road characteristics are good, and then we can over the winter kind of evaluate those and see where we can get them.
Perfect. Michael,
Great.
thanks so much. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you, Fred.
Take care.
Talk to you
Happy
soon.
Thanksgiving.
Representative Meskers, I think your hand is up. Did you
Yeah,
want-
I was going to say, I'm glad that we started the conversations with Westcog. I think that's going to be a great resource. Additionally, we should be talking with the state authorities. I think the whole wish list should be up with our delegation. I'd be happy to carry that forward, the wish list on the bicycle paths, because there's a goodly amount of money up in Hartford. We have to figure out what resources are available to us for some of the other projects, right? Westcog is but one part of that equation. There's federal funds and there's state funds, and then there's funds that in other states go through the county government. So Westcog kind of sits as a county government proxy, and that's why there's funds available administered through Westcog. So it'd be important that we look at the other sources from the Fed and the state. So as you're moving along on the projects, it's important that we at the state are aware so we can lobby and advocate for you on that.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Janet?
Similarly, there's Connecticut Rides, which is from the State Department of Transportation. They were at Town Hall yesterday. I gave them my card. And I have a card from them as well. I said that I would put you guys in touch.
CT Rides, that's the ride share? Is that what you mean?
Oh, no, it's from the State Department of Transportation, and they encourage public transportation ridership. They encourage biking,
Oh,
all
okay.
that. So, and it sounds like they've got some grant money and
Yeah.
programs that you guys might.
Everybody wants to give us money. We just said the town has to decide to take it and use it, I guess. No, that's great. That's really great. And the other thing that we can't lose sight of is that the Fairfield County section of the East Coast Greenway is the worst section in terms of protection. Once you get out of Fairfield County, there starts to become some protected paths, some off-road sections, and as you move further and further up Connecticut, it becomes all off-road in some areas. So ECG, the East Coast Greenway, knows that Fairfield County really needs to step up. Well, we're the gateway. If Greenwich says, "Yeah, come on, let's do this," it's going to really strengthen the case. Peter Berg, I want to give you a minute to kind of give us your thoughts as a land use person.
Well, you invited me. I'm happy to be here. I'm listening, and I don't know quite how I can help, but I'm an advocate.
Okay, appreciate that. Might shout out just for a second to Joanne Messina, because she's probably wondering, oh boy, you guys are getting a jump on this. This is great. But where's the project that we want to do for trees along Route 1 and maybe some other areas? I only see this as something that we could work together and push both things. As I think Fred said it, it's good to be able to have a path where you can enjoy those trees, or anybody can enjoy those trees. So let's join forces and strengthen this. Same thing with Alan. I think your group has done some unbelievable things, and we certainly want to support you guys as well. So. I don't see any other hands. Ernst, I want to recognize you as one of the key founders of this particular group. If you wanted to say a couple of words, we'll give you a minute. Otherwise, later on, whatever you like. Okay, so let's look at that. Think about those agenda items, the few things that Fred mentioned that are sort of low hanging fruit. I'm trying to open up my agenda here so I can actually see it. I wrote it. I should know it really by heart, but too many things going on in my head. So let me see if I can just, okay. So the first of those infrastructure and budget recommendations, the bicycle racks and mechanic stations, and just so it's clear to everybody, I think by now everybody probably realizes that those notes that are next to those items are from the budget book. Those are the placeholder items. They're referring to the placeholder items. The other attachment actually has the detail on those items. So there's already money in the budget that could be used. So these things are, those placeholders are applicable to what we're talking about. Bike racks, mechanic stations, particularly the Eastern Greenwich Civic Center. We already have an okay, sort of an okay, nothing written in stone yet that we've seen, unfortunately, for that project for bike racks and the mechanic station. And we're just going to keep on pushing that. We'd like to see that. I mean, I would like to hear everybody say yes. Let's do let's make that one of our recommendations to Fred to put in the budget, to keep in the budget, I suppose. That's a Parks and Rec thing, so we'll have to involve Parks and Rec on that one. But I would say that that's one of those low-hanging fruit things. Let's go down to the schools. The next one, the Board of Education. There again, bicycle racks. They were the Greenwich High School when Bob and I met over there with in Ralph Mayo's office with the site people. They said to us, "We don't have enough bike racks. We're scrambling trying to get bike racks or funding for bike racks." They have an issue there at Greenwich High School with, micromobility is expanding, not just bicycles, but scooters and both electric and gas powered. And they haven't really figured out how they're going to deal with the parking for all of those vehicles, particularly the parking, but also our concern is the access to it. So the first thing they said is right off the bat was we don't have enough bike racks. So I understand DPW has some racks that they might be able to lend to Greenwich High School, the removable, or I should say portable racks that were used on Greenwich Avenue at the beginning of the outdoor dining situation. So that might tide them over, but we really would like to see that all of this kind of stuff gets in the planning process when there's projects that are going to happen, such as that second egress, part B of the second egress to Greenwich High School, the bicycle and all micromobility accommodations should be part of that planning process. And to continue on, the Central Middle School project also should be set up so that they consider that the access and safe access to the schools by bicycle or scooter, or walking, or whatever it is. So hopefully the design we need to make sure that the design includes those considerations. And any other schools, someone mentioned JC, that if a project happens there, OG is already pretty good there. OG and Riverside are already pretty accessible. They have a lot of bike storage. So not bad there. We just have to make sure that stuff stays up. So again,
Hey, Vinny, hold on. Just one extra thought. They're in the middle of I don't know what the plans are on mobility with the old Greenwich Civic Center. You may want to review that as that's currently under construction. I have no idea what the mobility plans were for that. And that's a big center for all the sports and all, or will be when they finish it.
Absolutely. And that Bob D'Angelo was real strong in pointing that out to them at a meeting with Scott Johnson. He spoke about the plans and the Civic Center plans. So he's well aware. The Board of Parks and Rec is well aware of what we were asking for there. So it just needs to be codified that's going to happen. So moving on a little further on that. I mean, to me, that again, that's a low hanging fruit situation. I think we can make the case on that. The various public places, public spaces. When I spoke last to Jim Michael and to Mike Kislik last week, or maybe it was the beginning. No, it was last week. No. It was Monday. I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Monday, I think.
We talked about, they said to me, listen, if you can give us actual locations for bike racks. Michael, am I correct on that? That you're looking for actual locations?
Yes, I believe
Am I-
that was, yeah,
Yeah.
specific
Okay.
locations.
So that's something that was asked for a while ago, and we really have not come up with that inventory or those specific places in any big way. So that's a promise, I think, from us, from the task force, from the citizen members of the task force, and anybody else who wants to volunteer to say, hey, I think there's bike racks that are needed here, there, wherever we can. We will get that out there to DPW when it comes to the various public spaces. So we certainly want to encourage that there's money to be able to do that, whether that's, part of a capital line item, or whether it's done in the operations budget, however that can be done. We want to make sure that that's an ongoing effort. Okay, so all three of those subsets there, I guess, for bicycle racks, mechanic stations, seem to be all part of the low hanging fruit that Fred's talking about. And jump in, anybody, if you really need to, or you have any other thoughts about this stuff as we go through it. The second bullet point is actual physical road work. It's actually not physical. I suppose if you call paint physical, sharrows and shoulder striping, bike lanes wherever possible, some signage. That's something that seems like it could come out of the highway maintenance program, but I haven't. Jim hasn't confirmed that. Michael, I don't know if you can confirm that or comment on that.
I thought when we were, hold on, let me turn my video on. Thought when we were speaking with Jim the other day, he said that those could just come out of the sharrows, and simple striping things could just come out of the regular maintenance budget. We didn't need a separate thing for that, but just because those are really just paint on the road, and it's really pretty simple. So I think that we didn't need a separate item for. But
Okay,
obviously
great.
anything that's expanding a road or anything like that would. But yeah.
Okay, so I guess the as long as that could be done, that's great. I think what we get stuck on is, well, when we make a recommendation, when the task force makes a recommendation on something, how do we move it along? And I think that's the piece that we're struggling on a little bit with. I mean, does there need to be support? I think I've heard from a number of people, go to the RTM district where any of these particular projects are going to be, or where you're recommending something. Get support, start to get some support, because if it does move to a decision that needs to be handed down from, the Board of Selectmen or from, RTM. Hopefully the BET wouldn't have anything to do with this particular one if it is an operations budget thing. But if any other bodies need to weigh in on it, we'd like to make sure that we have support ahead of time to do that. Okay, so that sounds like it's a doable thing too. The multi-use path, that is a physical thing. Fred is behind it 100%, he says. The Valleywood Indian Field Road specifically, what do we need to move that one forward? We'll ask Fred to put it in the budget. I mean, I'm hoping we'll have a motion here to include that as one of those items. And from there, how do we get this supported? I think that's, in other words, there's going to have to be support in the BET as well as in the RTM. Steve Mesker's, that is at least part of that. And Joanne can probably speak a little more expertly about how much of that Chestnut Alley, if that's what you call it, is state, and how much of it is and Michael, maybe you know too, how much of it is state, how much of it is town property, so that we know where the approvals need to come from. Who can speak to
Joanne, do you
that?
know what that island is in terms of state versus town?
It is state. We did get.
In its entirety.
I'm sorry?
In its entirety, it's all state.
Yes. We did get an encroachment permit approved to work on it, to do the trees. So I don't know if we could use that same permit to do something else. Part of what we had discussed in the Greenscape Committee was to have a path through there, sort of making it more of an S idea, having the access to the bus stop be more apparent and just more accessible. So I think this falls right into that. So I think, yeah, we should be able to do something there.
Yeah, I mean, the state will initially say no many times,
Mhm.
but that's just a question of the size of the hammer you bring to the table. And
Right.
since we're not looking for ownership, what we want is a right of way or access, right? Because
Right.
they jealously preserve their territory for future development rights, even if they don't need it. I had a shouting match with them about access to the high school and the fact that we were on their road, on the access road behind the stadium for 40 years. And they wanted us to move it so they could have it back. And I asked for what, and I got crickets. So it's a territorial battle, but we'll get it. If you give me a design there, we should do that. I'll take advantage. Ben, I don't know, did we have a conversation about widening or access on Hillside for this 2-year state project they're doing to raise?
Oh yeah, we've had a lot of conversation in this committee about that. That's something we were strongly pushing for. The only reason it is not on this list now is because that project was pushed out another year. So
but it needs to be there, and I need to have my hands on it. I need a specific request from Mike. That's your job. I need a request from our DOT about access that you would envision on that Hillside project, and I will go to the DOT and work on it for you. But I need that request. Without seeing it, we're not going to get there from DPW to them. They come in front of my committee for their budget. If someone's going to crack them open, it's going to be me. I'm not guaranteeing it, but they're more afraid of me than our DPW if I have to deal with Connecticut DOT.
Okay. Okay, great. Bob, I'll let you go ahead with this.
Yeah, no, I just want to add, I think it's pretty clear. It's what we've been saying. I think to make it, real simple, we need a multi-purpose path from Valleywood Road up through the Green Island there, and that to go through the high school, over the bridge that's going to be made wide enough for a multi-purpose path, all the way up to the intersection at Overlook Drive. That's to answer your thing, Steve. That's what we're pushing for. And
well,
that's
I need my DPW to call to give me the map on what they want from the state, because I'm the one who has to probably, as the senior member of the delegation, I'm the one who will either get a target on my back from Greenwich or bring an axe up there to get it done. One of the two ways. But I need the pressure, I need the request to fulfill it. So I'll make that point blank to you guys. If you don't ask specifically, like this is the first time I've come to the meeting, This is the first time I'm getting my asks. I still don't have a map. And now you can start holding me accountable and torturing me. That I'm offering
We-
myself up as a victim, but you need to.
We'll
I need
do
to-
that. We'll hold you accountable. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Yeah, that's a big plus for us because we've been talking about Carmageddon there for at least as long as this committee has been in existence. So the high school knows it. I think the whole town knows it, and I think it's manifesting in the amount of kids that are now finding other ways to get to the high school already. So anyway,
And we have now a delegation, not to politicize. We have 3 Democrats in the House. So if we get everybody organized and leaning and saying we need that, it's a quid pro quo to the extent we can squeeze them. We can ask for it. We can't hurt.
Okay.
That's my
Well,
recommendation.
thanks for that. I didn't want to get it political, make it political here.
No, but it's
because-
good to ask
yeah.
them. I mean, that's the point. It's not like any other reason. I can turn around and say, hey, how about it?
Yeah, okay. No, that's great. As I said, that's not on the agenda, this agenda today, but I'm glad that you brought it up because it is certainly one of the biggest things we've talked about all along. Very, very
Good.
important. Okay, so, and that is obviously a multi-use path situation. So the Valleywood Indian Field looks doable. Again, I think that's, so far, it seems that all things we talked about could be, part of recommendations in Fred's budget. The Bruce Park, Pine Edom, Mianus River, the ADA Parks Master Plan that Alan Gunsberg spoke about and had a lot to do with happening. That study, I guess, that's what we're really talking about here. As I said, we have strong backing from Joe Siciliano. He's excited about doing, which is in my experience is a turnaround, not for Joe necessarily, because I don't know that it was really coming from him, but I'm an environmentalist like a lot of other people are. But the fact that there are no multi-use paths in the parks, it just doesn't sit well. And we actually asked the late Franklin Bloomer 15 years ago. We went to he led this, it was his idea. We went to the Board of Parks and Rec and asked for a path in Pine Edom. And they flatly turned it down. I know also that the Mianus River Park is sacred in terms of keeping bicycles out of there. They can do damage. There isn't any question about it. But with the correct surfacing, the correct type of paths, there isn't any reason why anyone can't enjoy those parks. So. Again, this looks like it's a go. That's the reason that these specific things are on this agenda, is because we talked a lot about them. We got input, and it seems like these things are possible, and we can maybe get some funding in this year's budget for that, or keep some of the funding in there, I guess, because there are placeholders there.
Vince?
Alan wants to say something. Go ahead, Alan.
One of the big reasons that we were able to discuss, and again, they've changed assistant directors at the Parks Department. I haven't met with the new assistant that just got hired, but Blaze worked very closely with us. But we worked very closely with DPW probably about 5 years ago to do a full ADA study, sidewalks, measuring the sidewalks, making sure they're wide enough, checking the slope and grade of the curb cuts to make sure that they're in compliance and the crosswalks were correct, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of ADA information right now within DPW that will work well with parks, crossing over from the real world into the park world. So I don't, like I said, I have not met with the new assistant parks director, but they have all the money and they were going to use the exact same group that DPW did to do their study.
Right, and that's actually what Joe talked about, was that he wants to use the study that's already underway, the parks ADA accessibility, and work with DPW with their ADA information, as you say. So it does seem like some of the stars are aligning here, and hopefully we can keep that going. There was something else about that I was going to mention. It's just a from an experience from, again, probably 15 or 20 years ago. I used to go to many conferences, and there was one that I went to, and there was a guy there from, I think he was very instrumental in planning in Central Park in New York. And someone asked about the crossover from, or the importance of parks for biking, when you relate it to biking for transportation. And he said they're both equally important, because the parks are the place where people learn to ride, get comfortable, and then enough to be able to ride on road as necessary. So we're just not taking advantage of. We have a lot of park land, a lot of park space. I don't think we've ever really, thought strongly about that. So all this is great stuff. And while we're talking, maybe we should let Bob do his report on the last Riverside, the bicycle clinic at Riverside School, because this is really what it's about. We're teaching kids to, elementary school kids, to ride bicycles on roads that are really not set up safely. It's legal for them to do it. Parents are allowing them to do it somewhat. But many more would allow them the freedom to be able to bicycle to school, or walk to school, scooter to school, if the infrastructure were better. So Bob, take that for a second.
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, we've run a bunch of safety clinics at different schools. We've run a clinic at the Boys and Girls Club last year. We ran a clinic at the Cuscub Library. So the bike bus is just one part of, a real effort that we feel is really important, that we want to grow, say, an army of kids that ride their bikes to school. There's no reason why that they should be in a long drop-off line, burning gas. So that's it. The other thing is, it goes to the mental state of kids. Basically, all kids are yearning for independence. I had a discussion with Tony Jones on this, basically. And I think that cycling can be one solution to a lot of things that young kids are going through. But that sense of independence, bikes come up real strong for that. So I know we're getting into some cold weather, but we'll keep, we want to grow the bike bus thing to some other schools. There'll be a lot more clinics that are planned, and we just don't want the clinics to be a one-off occurrence. We're working to think about how we can take the graduates of those clinics and maybe sponsor some, I don't know, weekend rides down at Todd's Point when on Sunday it's closed. So I think that's a lot of towns, their success in bike infrastructure. We benchmark actually started with an initial thrust on safe routes to school for kids, basically.
Yeah, just a reminder that Greenwich actually was in the lead on that when that Safe Routes to School program was introduced some 15, 20 years ago. We had 5 Safe Routes to School programs or studies done, and we had very little to show for it. That's kind of another story, but there were some inroads. Old Greenwich School started with a walking school bus. And still, I mean, you go to Old Greenwich School on a decent day, and there's tons of bicycles there. There's tons of bicycles at Riverside School. I even see, quite a number at Western Middle School. I'm not really certain about other schools. Those are the only ones that I see. But if we can get the infrastructure to the point where parents are safe and kids feel safer doing it, we certainly can grow it. So, where are we? Before we lose steam on this, I'm not sure the procedural. I think I have an idea, but Janet might be able to help out with this a little bit. Joanne's got a lot of experience in this kind of thing. I would like to if it's okay for the chair to make a motion, I'll do that. That we specifically recommend to the first selectman to include the things that we just talked about, and we can put that in the language of this motion to include those things in his recommended budget this year. Discussion on the motion, as they say in the RTM. No discussion on the motion?
Janet, or do you want to speak?
I was just going to say to Ben, it's just the three of you who are voting members of the committee. Is that right? It's just you, Bob, and
yeah, I think that's true. Yes.
So if certainly have this discussion. If you're trying to get approval so that you can write something up and put it before the Fred or the Board of Selectmen, just make a motion and say that you're making a motion to authorize you to draft, like you said, and that way you don't have to wordsmith it word for word here. You can just kind of get the concepts, and if Bob and Stephanie are okay, then they're authorizing you to work out that document that you can then submit to Fred.
Okay. I like the way that sounds, and I'll do that. I just want to make sure that both Bob and Stephanie at least feel pretty comfortable having heard from others in this Zoom meeting, particularly staff. I shouldn't say staff members, but town experts like Michael Kislik. It's important that we hear from other people and make sure that we're not doing something that we don't think is going to fly. So hearing nothing, I will.
I just want to interject. Ben, can I interject for a minute?
Sure, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I totally agree, and you hit a soft spot when you said safe routes to school, and talking about sidewalks. I mean, my goodness, you and I have been doing this for 20 years, and we've had these discussions. I can't imagine how many times. So I really do think it's time for you as the task force to say, okay, this is what we want to do. I think it's gone around. I think there's been input. Obviously, we all, whenever we want to do anything, we want to have a huge grassroots interest. But I think in this case, you are the authorities, you are the people. And I think, just saying that the task force suggests that we start here and give the list of the low-hanging fruit just makes so much sense, and just do it. That's all.
Thank you, Joanna.
And Ben, you have full support of the First Selectmen's Advisory Committee for people with disabilities. Without a doubt, everything that you do, whether it's wheeled access or foot access, makes everything better in this town. So we're right behind you. You need anything, we'll come and speak and help you out any way you need.
Can I cry now?
No.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate that very much. Okay, so then I'm going to make a motion that
But you should ask for the motion. You shouldn't make the motion.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought, that the chair shouldn't do that, right? Okay, I'm going to ask my two fellow members of the task force, one of you to make a motion that we do what Janet said. Go ahead, Stephanie, you want to express it?
Yes, I would like to make the motion.
Okay, which is? You're going to need to express it, though.
I would like to make a motion to put forward all of the bullet points that were in today's agenda, to put those forward for consideration as that being our, that is what the task force is suggesting of the town.
I second that.
Oh, wonderful. All right. So the three of us all in favor of that?
Yes, aye.
Bob D'Angelo, yes. Stephanie Martin, yes. Vin DeMarco, yes. Okay. Motion is passed, and we're going to move forward now, finally, with something concrete. Much appreciate that. All right. So let me see if there's another thing coming up here. Oh, I want to ask before everybody leaves, do we want to meet in December? This is good momentum. I had some thoughts that maybe we didn't need to meet in December because of the holidays, but I'm thinking that we really should spend at least a little bit of time really solidifying anything. If there's any loose ends, if we get any feedback or whatever it is, we might want to use that meeting as the public forum for the task force to keep the momentum going through the budget cycle, into the budget cycle, I should say. So if nobody has any objections, I'd like to keep that meeting in play. You okay? All right.
Hey, Ben,
Yep. Go ahead,
could you
Alan.
circulate your letter before you send it to Fred? Just so that we all can look at it one time, and if we have, we can go back to
Any
you
comments?
with comments or suggestions.
I suppose we can do that. We can always say, no, we're going with what we have, but we certainly would like to have, input is wonderful. That's great. Thanks for asking. And by the way, Alan, before you cut out, that's a good lead in. That next or the last item, it's not the last item, the next item, the developing initiatives. I'm not sure how aware you are of what we're calling the complete streets process, and the POCD actually calls it something like shared roadway network. We had Margarita Albin last meeting with us, and we talked about the kind of the comparison between those two things. They're actually about the same. But complete streets includes all users of the road or paths or whatever. There needs to be some sort of policy developed in town. We don't have that policy that we know of. It's not chartered. There isn't anything like that. So we've been trying to put together some sort of a roundtable where your group, the beautification group, the tree conservancy, all of the groups that are trying to improve things in Greenwich that have something to do with mobility, safety, accessibility. We want to have a roundtable where we can all throw around the ideas. We can look at the other, and we've looked at other programs, complete streets programs in other towns, or some of them have ordinances already. Some of them have complete streets manuals. We don't have any of that. And that's what we're getting to. That's one, and I hope that your committee would be able to participate in that. And the second one is the rules and regulations on bike ped and micromobility. It's becoming really, really important, and the town is seemingly not ready to address it. The fact that there could be a 14-year-old riding a scooter that does not have to be registered down the post road to the high school. mixing in with traffic. I mean, there's a real gray area now in terms of micromobility. It's something we should be supporting, but it has to be addressed safely. So that's the other thing, that hopefully that initiative, we can grow that. Janet has introduced me to the advisor to the Youth Commission, for Selectmen's Youth Commission. And hopefully we'll have some conversation with them, because they take on projects, all kinds of diverse projects that make it better for people in Greenwich, and I guess in particular youth. So we all know, we've seen the sideshows that are going on all around town and in other towns. Wheelies in front of you as you're driving along, bike tricks going on in front of you. It's super dangerous. But kids seem to be saying something there. I don't know if they're just looking for attention or just having fun. They might be saying something else, and we need to talk to them and find out. We need their support. We don't want someone to get killed and derail all of our efforts. We'll all be riding around in tanks for safety, and that's not where we want to be. So anyway, those two initiatives. Anybody else has something else they want to say? Ernst, I recognized you before. If you're still listening in, if you want to talk. Alan, do you want to answer something?
Yeah, just one question. That idea of a 14-year-old zooming down the post road to high school on a motorized electric or gasoline powered device at 40 miles an hour, is that a municipal issue or is that a state issue?
Because it's a state road, maybe there's something more about the state, but we looked into a number of meetings ago. We dug out the state statutes on micromobility, on bicycle use itself, and also had Chief Heavey talk to us about what he knew and what the police department actually polices. And I'm still not comfortable that, with either of those things. It seems to me that we need to have a broader conversation, really take a look at the different modes and what's actually happening out there. It just seems crazy to me that kid that you just talked about, that, a 14-year-old does not have to register. That kind of a vehicle does not have to be registered. And it's
Right.
just, it doesn't, even though the state says you have to be 16 years old, how would you know if the kid's 14 or 16 or 17? You don't know that,
Vinny,
there's no
Vinny.
license plate. Go ahead, Steve.
Vinny, I'll cut you off. I'm going to prohibit any conversations about what's allowed. Send me a list. There's an Office of Legislative Research. I have 3,000 gnomes. Do I know the answer to any of these questions? No. Do I like the questions? No. There's a group of people who will give us linear answers to every specific question regarding state legislation. So any of this stuff you're worried about, come to me. I will fly it up the flagpole, come back with an answer for you. There's a whole group up there that does this. We don't have to worry. So in terms of 14, 16, what is permitted, 25-mile-an-hour speed limits, all of it on the state side, and even where the state versus the municipality, how far we can go. So any of those questions, there's a bunch of people up there who are smart and bored. You send me the questions, I promise to get them to you.
All right. We'll
And
go for it.
And then I think it might be a two-pronged approach. There should be stronger state regulations because the technology has changed so dramatically in the past 3 years that I'm sure that the state legislation doesn't actually fit the technology that's out there. That's the first thing. The second thing is, we can have, local ordinances that can work in our favor.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
but I think we should be looking at both ends. And I think the state should be looking at, what constitutes a motor vehicle now that we, have e-bikes that can go 40 miles an hour down the
And how we
road.
regulate, and to your point, whether it's the state that regulates it, or the state devolves that authority to the municipality. It may already exist, the ability to regulate, and if it doesn't, then you've just given me another piece of work, which is to produce a piece of legislation authorizing the municipality to regulate the way we want to regulate, right?
Right.
Yeah, it does, from what we've read, it already does exist.
Okay.
The municipality can regulate further than the state. So, whatever the state regulates. So it's there, but we haven't done it.
Okay.
And that's the thing that I'm concerned about, is that, all of our efforts here are gonna go by the wayside if we don't get control of it.
And I'm not sure if you're right on Route 1. So we may need to make it explicit. That'll be a question you should put back to me, because you may be able to, because that is the major thoroughfare. So that's one we may want to work on the regulation.
Right.
Right. And I would agree completely, because those modes of transportation are the most dangerous for people who are visually impaired. You don't hear them, you can't see them, and next thing you know, you're road pizza.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot to consider here. So that's something that we need to continue to work on. All right. So the last piece, that enhancement project that Bob mentioned it earlier, and Steve, you're aware of it now, that well, maybe Steve, you're not totally aware. Last Board of Selectmen meeting was the last meeting. Yeah, I guess it was, Janet, right? I went in on behalf of the task force, asking for an endorsement by the Board of Selectmen to allow DPW to apply for a grant jointly with the city of Stamford for the recreational trails fund, the annual recreational trails fund. There's money every year. And we were advised by the East Coast Greenway that they would look very favorably on a project between two, and they were really looking at us, Greenwich and Stamford, to be the beginning of this East Coast Greenway improvement. But it was felt, or I felt, actually, it was more my feeling, Stamford did not need an approval. The DPW did not need an approval from anyone in the town government, in the city government, to apply for that grant. I was not certain that the Greenwich Board of Selectmen, the town's traffic authority, I was not certain whether or not they really needed to give the approval for that sort of a grant to be applied for. So that was the reason for the request for the endorsement of that. I think we got a thumbs up from all of them, but they're on a second read. So hopefully the next meeting, that will be approved, and then that grant could actually be applied for.
Yeah, now that is from the selectmen, not the RTM.
That's correct.
So then, as you and I know, you've been through the RTM, we will eventually see it to accept the grant, basically.
That's right.
We will vote to
Yeah.
accept at that point. Now, in the application and all the other stuff, it's also, I'll complain, it's good to get the whole delegation aware here, and I'll make sure the delegation in Stamford knows, because that lets all the people up, lets everybody up there know that voting members of the House of Representatives are all interested in this. It always helps. It's another thumb on the scale. So that needs to happen. We need to be communicated to. Not me, because I'm important, the delegation, period.
Thank you very much. That's great.
And just as an immediate concern or interest is, the next Board of Selectmen meeting is Tuesday, the 22nd, because of Thanksgiving.
Okay, so it's the 22nd?
It's the 22nd at 10 o'clock.
Okay, great. And we all can say Happy Thanksgiving at that point. Okay, and hopefully we'll be able to say thank you.
going back, I'll emphasize, anything on the jurisdictional state side, it's not, I don't have any of the answers, nor am I even like looking for the answers, but there's a group. So you're dealing, you don't ever tie yourselves up in research. Send me a list of questions. I'll present them to the Office of Legislative Research,
Great.
always.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, any further business, any new business? Anything else anybody wants to get off their chest? No? I want to thank everybody for being on this one because it feels like we're moving the ball a little bit here. Much appreciate. Thank you, Peter Berg. Thank you, Ernst, for listening in. Alan, you've been great. Appreciate you. Michael, thanks for being here, and Joanne.
One
Much
further piece of
appreciated.
business I mentioned, you, Vinny, not to, either you've already been with Pickering. I need to, if when you want, I'll get the people either deep or infrastructure funds in the state to have a little conversation with you guys about what might be available at the state side for some of the projects you may want, right? I mean, we're
We'll
going.
try to get on that right away.
Yeah, we're going through the funding from the town, praying they throw a couple of shekels our way. We should not be adverse to seeing what we can wring off the tree in Hartford. So you let me know when you guys would be amenable. Give me 2 or 3 dates, and I will try to get some of those people involved in a conference call.
Great.
Wonderful. That's great. Will do. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great
Take care.
have a great night.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye.